Hi, in this session we will be discussing about applications of bio-nanotechnology. These are the different applications we have to study: use of nanoparticles in agriculture, medicine and environment, then impact of nanoparticles on germination and seedling emergence and various growth parameters in crops, then effect of nanoparticles on gene expression, and translocation and accumulation of nanoparticles in plant tissues and organs. In this session, we will be stressing on impact of nanoparticles on various growth parameters and effect on gene expression, and also translocation and accumulation of nanoparticles in plants. So, first, impact of nanoparticles on seed germination and seedling emergence parameters in various crops. So, application of nanoparticles in crops have found to have both positive as well as negative impacts on seed germination and different stages of growth and development. So, both positive and negative impacts are present for application of nanoparticles, and we will be discussing the effects of multi-walled carbon nanotubes, nano-sized TiO2's effect, hydroxylapatites nanorods effect, and iron, cobalt and copper nanocrystals effect, and also silver nanoparticles effect on growth and development of plants in various stages. So, different experiments has been conducted by scientists on different plants, and we'll be discussing about different plants. So, first of all, about multi-walled carbon nanotubes. And a study was conducted on tomato plant, and it was found that these multi-walled carbon nanotubes had the ability to penetrate the seed coat and activate seed germination. So in tomato seeds, they activated the seed germination by penetrating the seed coat. And tomato plants which were grown in soil which has been supplemented with multi-walled carbon nanotubes were able to produce 2 times more flower compared to control plants. So this multi-walled carbon nanotubes activated the seed germination, and also these tomatoes which were grown in soil supplemented with multi-walled carbon nanotubes produce 2 times more flowers and fruits compared to the controlled soil which didn't have any nanoparticles. And this positive effects of multi-walled carbon nanotube was seen also on corn, soya bean and barley seedlings. So like tomato, these multi-walled carbon nanotubes also promoted germination and growth in corn, soya bean and also barley seedlings. And now we are going to discuss the effect of multi-walled carbon nanotubes on wheat, maize, peanut and garlic. And it was found that the seeds which were exposed to this nanotubes showed 3 to 4 times faster sprouting after 5 to 10 days exposure. So exposure to this nanotubes induce faster sprouting compared to normal plants, and also there was an increase in the plant growth and biomass production. Not only the germination or sprouting was faster, but also there was significant increase in the plant growth and biomass production. So as we had mentioned previously, the application of nanoparticles had both positive and negative impacts. This till now we were discussing about the positive impacts of multi-walled carbon nanotubes, but it is found that at higher doses they have a detrimental effects on the plant growth. And it was also found that the application of carbon nanotubes inhibited root elongation in tomato plants. So both positive and negative effects were found. In higher dose, these nanoparticles were acting as a hindrance for plant growth, and the application of carbon nanotubes inhibited the root elongation in tomato. Next, we are going to discuss about the role of nano-sized TiO2 particles, and they were applied at a concentration of 10 parts per million, and the effects on weeds will be discussed. And the application of nano-sized TiO2 showed that the germination time decreased, and also the seedling length was higher after application of 2 to 10 ppm nano-size TiO2 compared to those plants which were given bulk TiO2. So application of TiO2 showed that at a concentration of 2 to 10 ppm showed that it lowered the germination time, and also the seedling length was sufficiently higher compared to application of bulk TiO2. And it was found that when the concentration of TiO2 was increased, it had inhibitory or no effect on wheat. So high at lower concentration only TiO2 showed any positive effect. At higher concentration it had no or inhibitory effect on wheat. And now we are going to discuss the application of TiO2, nano TiO2 on spinach, chickpea and soya bean. And it was found that here also in spinach also this nano TiO2 accelerated the germination rate in aged spinach seeds. So in aged spinach seeds, it accelerated the germination and also enhanced the vigor. So germination was accelerated, that too in aged spinach seeds. And coming to the case of chickpea, the application of hydroxylepatite nanorods result in better germination and enhanced plant growth. So overall this application of nanoparticle in lower concentration was found to be having a positive impact on the rate of germination or time taken to germination and plant growth, etc. But higher concentration it had a detrimental effect. And in soya bean also germination and growth parameters was improved after application of nano SiO2 and TiO2 mixtures. So overall nano TiO2 increased the growth, and hydroxylepatite nanorods increased the growth and better germination in chickpea. Next, we are going to see the effect of iron, cobalt and copper nanocrystalline powders. And when this powder was applied to soya bean seeds, a low dose, that is a dose of the 300 milligram per hectare, it was found that significant improvement was seen in different plant growth parameters such as chlorophyll content, number of nodules or roots, number of pods, pod weight, 1000 grain weight and crop yield. So application of iron, cobalt and copper nanocrystalline powder at low doses, that is 300 milligram of metal per hectare, it was found that in soya bean seed it showed significant improvement in different plant growth and development parameters such as chlorophyll content increase, number of nodules per root increase, number of pods per plant increase, the pod weight, then weight of 1000 grains, and crop yield also was found to increase. Next is silver nanoparticle, and it is one of the widely used engineered nanoparticles, And in agriculture also, it's the most widely used engineered nanoparticles. And it has been found that these also, silver nanoparticle also has a positive effect on germination of plants and various growth parameters at lower concentration. Whereas there are also studies which shows that nanoparticles have a negative effect on germination and plant growth due to their genotoxic effects. So in certain plants, these nanoparticles had a negative effect on the germination and growth due to their genotoxic effect. And when soya beans which were treated with CO2 nanoparticles, it was detected that by random amplified polymorphic DNA studies that 4 new bands were detected, and as the concentration increases, 3 new bands was detected, showing that these nanoparticles had some effect on the genes or genotoxic effects. Next, copper oxide nanoparticles also mediated DNA damage in some terrestrial plants. Like CO2 nanoparticles, these copper oxide nanoparticles also cause some DNA damages in terrestrial plant. And plant growth inhibition was seen in radish, ryegrass, grass, perennial and annual ryegrass, and also some mutagenic DNA lesions were seen by application of copper oxide nanoparticles. Next, we are moving on to effect of nanoparticles on gene expression. So, effect of different nanoparticles on gene expression has been studied on animals, humans as well as plant. And in plant, certain nanoparticles are found to be toxic, and these phytotoxicity mechanism are highly specific, and it depends on the type and concentration of the nanoparticles. So phytotoxicity of nanoparticles are highly specific, and it mainly depends on the type as well as concentration on nanoparticles. And it was found that both in animals as well as plants, exposure to nanoparticles altered the gene expression of superoxide dismutase. So, both in animals and plants, the gene expression of superoxide dismutase was altered by exposure to nanoparticles. And this superoxide dismutase is an enzyme, it's a gene which is involved in making of the enzyme superoxide dismutase, and this particular enzyme is found abundantly in our body. Now let's see what is the function of this enzyme. This enzyme superoxide dismutase helps to break down toxic charged oxygen molecules called as superoxide radicals. So the activity or function of superoxide dismutase is the breaking down of superoxide radicals, and these superoxide radicals are formed as a byproduct of normal cellular activities. So the nanoparticles had significant effect in altering the gene expression of superoxide dismutase. And superoxide dismutase gene is involved in production of an enzyme called as superoxide dismutase, which is involved in scavenging of superoxide radicals. Then activity of Al2O3 nanoparticles, and it was found that higher concentration of Al2O3 nanoparticles, significant upregulation of microRNAs was seen. When plants were exposed to Al2O3 nanoparticles, upregulation of number of microRNA genes were seen. And examples of microRNA genes which were upregulated are MIR395, MIR397, 398 and 399. And now let's see what are microRNAs. MicroRNAs are a class of small 18 to 28 nucleotide long non-coding RNA. So microRNA are non-coding RNAs and they are 18 to 28 nucleotide long, and their major role is in post-transcriptional regulation of protein expression. So in concentration of 1% Al2O3 nanoparticle stress, it was found that synthesis or upregulation of number of microRNAs genes take place. Next, a study was conducted on Arabidopsis, and microarray based gene expression analysis was carried out, and exposures to different nanoparticles like zinc oxide, TiO2 and fullerene soot was studied, and it was found that exposure to zinc oxide and fullerene soot lead to upregulation of genes, and these genes which were upregulated were the genes which were involved in biotic stress responsive gene and abiotic stress responsive gene. So exposure of plant to zinc oxide and fullerene soot led to upregulation of genes which were involved in biotic stress responsive genes and abiotic stress responsive gene. The biotic stress responsive genes which were upregulated were wound and defense to pathogen genes, and the abiotic stress genes which were upregulated are the genes for oxidative, salt and water deprivation responsive genes. And also the zinc oxide exposure was responsible for down regulation of genes which were involved in cell organization and biogenesis. So exposure to zinc oxide led to upregulation of genes which were involved in abiotic and biotic stress responsive genes, and it led to down regulation of genes which were involved in cell organization and biogenesis. Next, exposure to fullerene soot led to down regulation of genes which were involved in electron transport and energy pathway. And coming to TiO2, both upregulation and down regulation were detected for genes which were involved in abiotic and biotic stimulus response. So ZNO2, both upregulation and down regulation is seen in fullerene soot also upregulation and genes involved in biotic and abiotic stress responsive gene is seen, and down regulation of genes involved in electron transport is seen. In TiO2, upregulation and down regulation of genes which were involved in abiotic and biotic stimulus was seen. Next, another study conducted on Arabidopsis again using microarrays for studying the gene expression changes which were taking place after exposure to silver nanoparticles. And this exposure to silver nanoparticles, upregulation and also downregulation of gene was seen. The major genes which were upregulated are associated with response to metal and oxidative stress such as cation exchanges, cytochrome P450 dependent oxidase, superoxide dismutase and peroxidase. So upregulated genes in plants which were exposed to silver nanoparticles are genes which were associated with response to metal and oxidative stress, and downregulated genes were responsible for pathogen and hormonal stimuli, and the genes involved in systemic acquired resistance were downregulated. The genes involved in ethylene signal was downregulated, and auxin regulated gene involved in organ size was also downregulated. So exposure of Arabidopsis to silver nanoparticles led to upregulation and downregulation of genes. Upregulated genes were associated with metal and oxidative stress, and downregulated genes were responsive to pathogen and hormonal stimuli. Next, the gene expression response in to silver nanoparticle is again discussed, and here certain other genes has also been found to be upregulated, such as two salt stress related genes, then gene coding for myrosinase binding protein which is involved in biotic stress, then 3 genes which were involved in Thalianol biosynthetic pathway, and a gene response to wounding was also upregulated. And exposure to of Arabidopsis to zinc oxide, fullerene soot and silver nanoparticles also cause similar changes in gene expression. Next, we are going to discuss about translocation and accumulation of nanoparticles in plant tissues and organs. So, after being absorbed from the soil, how these nanoparticles are translocated and where do they accumulate? Mainly, we are going to focus on where these nanoparticles are accumulated in different plants. So, usually uptake, translocation and accumulation of nanoparticles depends on the plant species and also the size of nanoparticle, the type of nanoparticle, the chemical composition of nanoparticle and stability of nanoparticles. So, uptake, translocation and accumulation of nanoparticles in plant depend on the plant species and also depend on the different characters of nanoparticles such as size, kind, chemical composition and stability. And among the carbon based nanoparticles, only fullerenes and fulleroles has been readily accumulated in plants, and in carbon nanoparticles only fullerenes and fulleroles has been readily accumulated in plant, and the other carbon nanoparticles are not accumulated due to their large size. And most of the metal based nanoparticles are found to be accumulated in plants, and there are also some conflicting data regarding that. So, among carbon mainly accumulated are fullerenes and fulleroles, and among metal based nanoparticles most of them are readily accumulated by plants. And after absorbing these nanoparticles from the soil, they are translocated within the plant and accumulated in different parts of the plants where they establish a complex with the carrier proteins. So, after absorbing from the soil, they are translocated and they can be accumulated in different parts of the plant, and they are seen as a complex in association with the carrier protein. So, the first study on accumulation and translocation analysis was carried out on magnetite nanoparticles or Fe3O4 nanoparticles on pumpkin. The first study was carried out on Fe3O4 nanoparticles on pumpkin, and it was found that these nanoparticles was absorbed by the pumpkin root and they were translocated throughout the plant tissues. So, Fe3O4 nanoparticles were absorbed by the roots and translocated throughout the plant, and it was found that 45.5% was accumulated in the roots and 0.6% was accumulated in the leaves. So, these Fe3O4 was readily absorbed and translocated, and out of it 45% was seen in root and 6% was seen in leaves. Then application of iron oxide nanoparticles on lima beans show that they do not uptake or transport these nanoparticles. Whereas in pumpkin it was shown that they are readily absorbed, whereas in lima beans these iron oxide nanoparticles are not taken or transported within the plant. Next, as among the different carbon-based nanomaterials, the most commonly uptaken one is fullerenes and fullerols were accumulated widely in plants, and usually this multi-wall carbon nanotubes were not uptaken by the roots, and they were not uptaken because of their large size, which acted as a hindrance. And in roots of mature plant, no C70 was detected. It shows that after absorption they are readily transported to the shoot, they don't remain in the root. And single wall carbon nanotubes, another carbon based nanoparticles, were found to show penetration to plant cells, whereas multi walled carbon nanotubes are not absorbed by rice, whereas single walled carbon nanotubes has the ability to penetrate into the plant cell. So among the carbon nanomaterials, fullerenes and fullerols were the most widely accumulated, and in studies done in Oryza sativa, it was found that C17 fullerene was readily or easily taken up by the roots and transported to the shoot, and multi-wall carbon nanotubes were not absorbed because of their large size, and in a mature plant these C70 was not detected in the root, which shows that after being absorbed by this plant they are readily transported into the shoots. Next is the use of colloidal NaYF4YbEr nanocrystals in this moth orchid showed that they were readily uptaken and transported from the roots to the leaf. So application of this aqueous colloidal solution of NaYF4 YbEr nanocrystal during watering in Phalaenopsis species, that is moth orchid, these nanoparticles were taken up by the plant and transported from the roots to the leaves. And this uptake and translocation of nanoparticles in plants depend on the species and also various characters of the nanoparticles. So the route of penetration of nanocrystals at different times in different tissues can be studied using confocal laser scanning microscopic analysis, and magnetic nanoparticles like Fe3O4 can be detected from root, stem and leaves of pumpkin. It was mentioned in the first slide that 45.5% was seen in root and 0.6% was seen in leaves. So magnetic nanoparticles was readily absorbed and they were found accumulated in both root, stem and leaves of pumpkin, and this uptake depends on the growth medium. Thank you.